We'll go now to Mr. Motz for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go back to my previous line of questioning about the honesty or lack thereof of the senior suspect in this particular conversation. Do you believe it's likely in this case that he misrepresented himself on the files, and do you believe he lied? And I'll ask both Mr. Cormier and Mr. Zafar.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Due to the ongoing criminal proceedings, I cannot provide any further details on the...
Well, that's not a question about the ongoing investigation. This is a question about his immigration status and how he got here. So obviously he came in under false pretense. I mean, if what you're telling Canadians is that the systems that you have in place work and they work fine, then you would have been able to identify some affiliation somewhere. And because you didn't, that would give me rise to believe that either the checks weren't done appropriately or properly, or somebody misrepresented themselves, and which is not new to either one of you and your departments. And I'm just wondering whether if that's the case. And Mr. Cormier or Mick Cormier, I would ask you that same question.
The question, Mr. Chair, and I'm under the same restrictions in terms of what I can comment about in these particular cases.
Well, we can draw conclusions based on both of your, what you can and can't say, and I appreciate that. Ms. Zafar, you had mentioned something, and I think Mr. McCarty, you did the same thing about you follow the requirements of the legislation. For admissibility, admittance, etc. Do you not think that Canadians have a right to believe and a right to expect that we must always err on the side of caution, that we must always be on the side of national security and public safety when we allow individuals in that we may not have all the answers to?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Our officers make every effort to satisfy themselves that an individual is not inadmissible to Canada. Working with our partners, they will do a thorough review based on the information that is available to them and to our partners at the time to make that determination. My colleague might have something that he wants to add from the CBSA.
I would, again, just echo the point in which that our staff undertake these thorough reviews. The criticism that we get as an agency is not that we're not doing thorough reviews. Typically, the criticism is we're taking too long because we take the time necessary to do the most thorough review that we can based on the best available information at any moment in time. And it's based on that information that we provide a recommendation to our colleagues in IRCC.
So as you look at the current structure we have in place now to ensure that individuals do not enter the country in the manner in which this individual did, is there legislative things that we need to look at that need to be fixed? Is there something, some ideology, some position of this current government on lax immigration standards that impact this, in your opinions? Mr. McCorry?
What I would say, and again, thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. What I would say again is that is one of the reasons we are doing this review, to understand what happened in this particular case. Are there systemic issues? What solutions are required? They may be procedural fixes on our part. They may be allocation of resources. It may be, as I've suggested for CBSA, we need to do more on the dark web. And it may be legislative or regulatory changes. It's premature for me to speculate as to what they are, but that's certainly on our agenda in terms of what we need to look at.
Ms. Lanceman asked you a question earlier about, and I believe you answered affirmatively. I'm sure everybody, as witnesses today, understand what Canadians expect. Like, you want them, you understand their concern, I take it. Is that a yes?
Yes.
So then it's obvious then that they need answers, and not just, and not just for this committee's sake, but for the sake of our national security and public safety moving forward. Because if one individual got in this way, I'll guarantee you that there are others here already, and we already know that based on 700 IRGC individuals who are already in this country. How they got here, it begs another question: how did we let those people in, who already have affiliations to an organization that's a terrorist organization. So when you do this deep dive as to where the gaps were, I think you need to go beyond this case and look at all cases for both immigration and the CBSA on how we can fix this broken system, because it is broken.
In fact, and what we want to do, to your point, we want to make sure that we do the level of analysis and the level of thinking about this that Canadians expect of us. So I don't want to give you an off-the-cuff answer in terms of what we need to do, and looking at the system as a whole. And it's not just looking at these two cases. As the Minister and Mr. Gallivan indicated, we'll be looking at a representative sample of all the cases that we've processed over a period of time to understand if there's any gaps there. And again, what improvements, if any, we need to make.
Thank you, Mr. Motz. We go now to Mr. Moff. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question with regard to the dark web. Several times today, the Conservative Party has talked about videos being readily available, publicly available, and I recognize you can't talk about information in this case. But there was research that was done that says key characteristics, and I'm quoting, key characteristics of the dark web include the inability to search or list them through legal platforms, passwords to gain entry when accessible, and hidden identities of users, network traffic, IP addresses, and data exchange through them. While the dark web was originally built for military communication and advocating freedom of speech, it has also provided technology enablement and power to adversaries to masquerade heinous activities. So I'm not being flippant here at all, but perhaps, Ms. Lloyd, this could be directed to you. How do you access the dark web?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. Remember, I'm not able to answer that question without revealing the details of our operational tradecraft methodologies and capabilities.
Okay. As an individual, is it easy for me to Google darkweb.com and be able to access information that's on there? And I'm not trying to be flippant, but it has been portrayed here today that it's easy to access. You can't tell us how to access it because it's in the national security interest not to share that information. So is it easy for me to access the dark web?
Mr. Chair, Honourable Member, I think what I can say is that we've spoken a bit this morning about the complexities of living in a digital age, and that would be reflected in some of the conversation we've had today about the challenges of being able to access information at the time that information is perhaps needed with regards to decisions that have to be made or files that need to be reviewed.
Thank you. The other question I had is it was alleged that Canada didn't do as well as other countries in terms of security checks on these individuals. However, the minister, when he appeared, talked about an exchange he had with the UK and how grateful the UK was about the information that was provided by Canada. I think it would be fair to say that the sharing of information actually allows us to broaden the net to make Canada safer. So it's not necessarily that one country is doing better than another. It's that we have a network, particularly the Five Eyes, but other networks where we can share information. And it's not that Canada's doing a bad job. It's that we have a network to make Canada actually safer. It's perhaps I'll direct that to CBSA.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. As a key element of our security screening program is our ability to gather, first and foremost, we look at our own data sources, but we also do rely on partners both domestically as well as internationally, and especially in the Five Eyes, but not just exclusively. So it is a two-way street, and we share information with them, and they share information with us, and it is a tremendous, there's a great deal of utility in that in terms of how we do our work.
And that sharing is ongoing too. It's something that's happening all the time between the security agencies, correct?
That is correct.
And I think it was just said that the our system is broken. I would actually argue that it's not broken. And what happened in this particular case actually shows that it's not broken, that the work that all of your agencies do, and I commend all of you, actually worked. And as a result, Canadians are safer because of that. And I think it's important not to be fear-mongering here and making Canadians start to fear their neighbors, which is the sense that I'm getting from the questions. I think it's important that Canadians know that the agencies that we entrust with our national security are actually doing the work that we entrust with them and are doing it well and keeping us safe. So, Chair, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moff. So that wraps up round 2. I'm going to suggest to the committee if we want to take a 5-minute break and start again after the break with another round 1. Is the committee okay with that? So let's make it 5 minutes, not 10 or 15, okay? Suspended.